Well, hey, welcome to the show, Sarah. We're really happy to have you. Sarah Buchner, that's not it.
You did it again,
It's a
Steven.
Buchner.
Sarah Buchner is with us, CEO of Trunk Tools. How are you?
I'm good. Good to see you guys.
It's good to see you. So we've got a lot of things to dig into. I'm really excited to have this conversation. Obviously, we chatted before, and you're at an interesting intersection in the industry because obviously there's an AI element, like a Series B company, so you're kind of beyond the small thing, and you've been in the news recently, and so there's a lot of different angles to the conversation that we want to have. But to start, what was your first vehicle that you drove?
A tractor.
A tractor? That's
Okay.
authentic.
Okay.
Wow.
Who made
That
it?
beats
What
you,
type?
Lars.
What type?
Yeah.
What type?
No, I mean, I don't know if that exists here. Puch, P-U-C-H, Pach, Patch, whatever you call
No.
it.
No.
Whatever.
Okay.
It was a tractor. I grew up on a farm and I drove a tractor.
At what age did you start driving it? This is good stuff.
8?
8? That's
Yeah.
typical farm
Yeah.
life. Yeah, that's good.
What was your first vehicle, Lars?
Jeep Cherokee?
Oh, that's too cool. I don't like that answer.
Well, so technically it was my second vehicle because the first car was my neighbor's Toyota Corolla. And Sarah, I'm pretty tall. I'm like 6'6", 6'7". I didn't fit. My parents got it for me, a smoke and deal rebuilt engine. And I got in it the first time and they're like, yeah, it's going to be a problem. It was literally a lawnmower engine and it wasn't safe. So I spent half my money to go in on 50-50 on, anyway, Cherokee. Worked out well. And then my mom spilled milk in it and didn't tell me.
It's
Not good.
kind.
That was a science experiment turned bad.
So that was my second vehicle too, was a Jeep Cherokee. I had a 97 black Jeep. What color was yours?
96. No, mine was an 86. It was blue, like a dark blue. It was good.
I mean, I've always felt like simpatico with you. I just didn't
Now we know.
realize that
Now
we
we know.
drove
Jeep
the
guys.
same vehicle.
Jeep guys.
But my
Focus.
first vehicle was a Chevy Astro van though. So I went through my paces. Well, good. We got the important things out of the way. I think to start, we wanted to go through kind of your origin story, Sarah, because I think a lot of people in the industry maybe don't really know that. And so how did you kind of come to starting Trunk Tools? Like, let's go back to the beginning. You're driving a tractor, you're aged, you're like, let's build an AI play in construction.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I grew up in pretty poor environment. So like working on the farm was part of what you did to like put food on the table. And then my dad was a carpenter next to the farm. And so then eventually he took me out on construction sites. I probably started as a carpenter when I was like 12-ish, actually like working on job sites with him. And it was cool. I got a little bit of money and I liked the people. It was like being a tradesperson was authentic. It was no BS. It was just like real. And I loved building something. And so I got stuck. I was a blue-collar worker for about 8 years, became foreman and superintendent. Then I switched to the GC side because I thought that's where the money was. That was a tough landing, exactly. And I was at GC for a while, built larger and larger jobs, and eventually I was running a high-res job in Berlin, and I had a fatality on my job. And that was really the moment when I started thinking like, hey, do I want to manage job sites where people literally die, or do I want to change something? And so I fell into software. I was like, hey, we could build a health and safety app and like save lives. And that was my switch from actual construction after like 15 years in the field or something to like construction tech. Yeah. And then I had a mentor who was like, if you want to become something as a woman in construction, you need a PhD. That was very European, right? Like,
I was going to wonder, or I've been wondering about that, the doctor, like where, how, when, why, all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, I worked for Strabag. Strabag is the Turner of Europe. It's like a massive $20 billion like construction company. And one of the C-suite executives was a mentor of mine, and he's like, you need a PhD so you stand out, especially because you're a woman. And so you need to differentiate yourself. And I'm like, okay, if you want me to write a PhD, you're going to pay for it. And he's like, okay, if I pay for it, I give you the topic. And I'm like, okay, that sounds like a good deal. And then he asked me to analyze their company's data and figure out what we can do with data in construction. It was like a decade ago. And that's how I ended up here, right? Because I was then doing the research and I realized we can't do anything without data because our data is super unstructured. It's super siloed. It's constantly changing. It's just a massive mess. And so parts of my PhD was early data extraction, like early ML. This was way before AI was cool. Yeah. And then I was like, okay, I think there's a market for this, but Europe was not the right place. And so I always loved the United States. I wanted to live the American dream. And I got myself into business school because this came with a visa. And that was my path into the US. So it was like, okay, how can I make it here? And then how can I start a business here?
What
Like the
year was that?
economy for
What
startups
year
is
was
way
that?
better. I came here 2019.
Okay. And
So
landed
I
in
did
New
business
York.
school. No, I landed at Stanford. I did
Okay.
Stanford Business School. And then that is so Silicon Valley, right? Which was, I mean, that's a love-hate relationship because I think there's lots of stuff coming out of Silicon Valley for construction. It makes no sense. But for somebody like me, it was perfect because it was easy to get money and to hire the right people, right? I could hire these genius AI people out of Silicon Valley and somehow get them excited about construction.
What when you say not Europe, what goes into that perspective? Is it just the cultural element around how they build? Like I think from the outside looking in, I think of like, hey, Europe has a few things that they do really well. You've built in it. What's the difference?
Yeah, I mean, from a pure construction industry perspective, I think what Europe is crushing is like prefab, modular construction, sustainability, right? Like these are the big themes that Europe has figured out and the US is really lacking behind.
Yeah.
But when it comes to software adoption and startups in general, the US is so much further. Like the way people think about innovation and about all of this is just amazing to me. And hiring that kind of talent, right? Like in Europe, I had a software company in Europe. I wasn't even allowed to give equity to my employees because there was no bureaucratic infrastructure for that, right? And here for the first, like, whatever year plus, I didn't have to pay office. I didn't have to pay my lawyers. I didn't have to pay most of the employees, right? So like there's like, because you hand them equity and so on. So there's just a different element of how fast you can grow software companies in the US versus
Let,
anywhere else.
let me ask you a question on that. How is failure perceived in Europe versus how is failure perceived in the States based on your time now?
Yeah.
It's a good one.
Yeah, it's funny. I love that question. I left Europe because taking risks was being seen as something purely negative. And that was for somebody like me, like again, like I'm a farm girl, right? Like I'm a carpenter. Like for me to even get anything close to where I'm at right now, it takes risks, right? It takes getting out of your comfort zone. And that's being celebrated in the US and it's not in Europe. But even when I raised my Series A, at that point I've raised $30 million, right? Which is a lot of money in any world. I still had people in Europe telling me like, are you sure this is very risky? Don't you just want to go back into corporate? Like you had a guaranteed career. I'm like, guys, like this is not like I'm playing around startup anymore. Like I have like 100+ employees. Yeah, risk is consistently being seen as something negative and therefore failure can be the end of your career. And in the US, it's not.
So I've heard similar things. So you're talking to these people back home. How does that affect you? When
Not anymore.
not anymore? Okay.
Yeah, I would say I got very Americanized. I mean, I still have an accent, I get it, and I still look a little bit weird, but I get very Americanized.
It's the last name. Okay, it's the last name. Let's be honest.
When did you realize that you weren't just like playing at the game of startup and that like, oh, like this is something? Or that you were like always had just an internal confidence that you're like, yeah, this is gonna be something.
You mean when I knew that Trunctos was going to be
Yeah.
something? I always think like you'll know within 2 years if this is going to turn into anything or not. The first 2 years are just a wash of, yeah, in any start, almost every startup, right? There's always the 1%. But I would say I knew when I had Trunk Text, which wasn't our first product, but I knew when I had a superintendent call me after he was using Trunk Text for like a week or so. And I was like, this is the coolest, and I'm going to get beeped here, right? But like he was just going off a rampage of how amazing this is and that he never wants to like live without this anymore. And that was when I knew like, okay, we had something, right? And then trying to grasp their mind around like what this is, what they have in their hands. And I don't know if you guys remember, but Trunk Text earlier was just like you sent a text message to like a phone number and it will respond with an answer about your construction site, right? So like be like, what color do I use in the lobby? And somebody texts you back, Benjamin Moore, Matt White. And that was magic to them. And when you see magic in field people's eyes, you're like, okay, there's something real about this.
Yeah.
Their life just
I
got
like
easier.
I like
Right.
that it wasn't like I think we would orient ourselves to success as being associated to like dollars, revenue, raised amounts. But you're saying like feedback from the field
Yeah.
is kind of a marker
From
of
real
success.
people, right? Because
Yeah.
everybody can convince the innovation folks that like this is cool and they want to try everything, right? And like we need them. Like I'm a big fan of them, but like that's not real feedback. Like I need this. And a few weeks ago we had a a superintendent post on TikTok. Somebody in my team found it. I was like, I'm not even a TikTok, but he posted on TikTok, was like, yeah, I really don't like AI, and I wasn't a fan, but now I've used trunk tools, and like now I'm actually think like this is actually helping me, right? And so like that's the kind of stuff. I was like, okay, cool, we have something here. When you have that, the revenue will follow, and when you have the revenue, the investment will follow. Like everything, that's the first domino is people feel relief or joy or whatever is trying to make them feel while using your product.
Man, we got to get on TikTok, Lars. There's a whole economy there we're missing out on.
Bro, I'm already on it.
Are you on
I'm
TikTok?
completely diversified over on TikTok. Yeah. Come on
You
now.
would be on. You're an early adopter. So what's what's the morning after, like after raising $30 million or $40 million? Like so you like celebrate with the team. Like what is it? You just like get to work?
She's a doctor. She
Yeah.
works, Stephen.
I would take at least a couple days and be like, all right, did we
No, the funny thing is people underestimate that. So like you were raising for a while, right? Like, and then it's not like it hits like a lottery win, right? Like, you know, it's coming. You're doing due diligence for several weeks, right? They're like taking you apart. And then eventually they wire the money. And then while they wire the money for a round that large, like a Series B, you have 15 days for you to work with the media to announce it, because otherwise it gets announced without you there, right? So like immediately after the money's in the bank, you start the media outreach, you telling your team, you do all of this stuff, and then you start hiring because that's what the investors want from you. And so the usual breathing time is 2 or 3 months after you raise. That's when you feel like a week or two, you feel like, oh, things are good.
But at that point, aren't you worrying about your next raise?
No, again, there's this one point for 2 weeks where it feels good.
It's the 2 weeks. Okay, got it.
It's 2 weeks.
It's a window.
It's like 2 or 3 months after you close. For 2 weeks, you feel good, and then it starts the rat race starts again.
Yeah.
What's the community like of other construction tech founders? Is there like a WhatsApp thread that you guys are all on?
There's a few, yeah. I actually started the one with female founders in construction tech.
That's a good one.
Good for you.
Do you want to guess how many I found worldwide?
6, 8,
7.
3?
Not
13
enough.
so far.
13. All right. Okay. Real quick, what are they solving? I'm just curious. Like, what aspects, you know?
I mean, there's Dusty, robotics, right? There's Versatile. So, like, there's the big ones that you know and I know, and then there's smaller ones that you've never heard about, but like, yeah. So there's that, and then there's obviously one with the men. So how's the community? I think it's funny because when you meet them, most of it is very friendly, but then somehow a lot of them was really hardcore trying to compete with each other. And I'm like, this is crazy. Like this industry is so large, and we're standing, it's like Tui told me this at one point, which was very funny. Tui said between him and Andrew from Autodesk, it was the same thing. They were standing in a corner and looking into a ballroom, but the ballroom was the industry. But instead of looking into the ballroom, they were fighting each other in the corner. I'm like,
yeah.
That was, again, I stole it from Tui, but it was such a good example of like, that's how it feels like. Like, why are we trying to compete with each other? And I think Renee from Alice Technologies told me early on, he was like, you think you're competing, but then every day you make a million decisions to go left or right or left or right. Yeah. And if you make them hundreds of times a week, eventually you end up at a different place. And that's, I think, very true in construction tech.
Well, and I think too often, like whether it's startups or even incumbents, isolate on the top 50 ENR GCs as like the industry, but it's so much bigger than that. And there's so many different angles to which you could pursue. But Lars, I cut you off. I'm sorry.
No, I can't. That was so profound, Stephen. I can't remember what I was going to say right now. No, it was sort of along the lines of just the whole competition piece. When you focus on your competitor or your perceived competitor, you miss your customer. You miss the value at helping your customer. So you make it more about your competition rather than your customer. And I think, and I know at least as a general contractor, it's like, it's so interesting the people that get, they're weird about competition. Listen, 364 days out of the year, we're friends. There's only one day on bid day. And that's where we're arch nemesis, right? We're like, what are they going to do? But other than that, it's like, oh, dude, so glad you got that one. Sounds awful. Good luck, right? Like that's where we're all dealing with the same stuff, right?
Yeah.
I do think clearly to your point, you say you're standing in a corner of a ballroom. I'd say it's like I'm standing floating over the Pacific Ocean, not able to see land. I mean, the ocean's just massive, right? Like, where are we going? don't know. There's so many
Right.
different directions. There's so many fish out here, to which each one of them and the nuance of the industry, it's like, it's different. There's different pain points at different sizes, different sectors. It's so big. And just to say, oh, here's a piece of software, it's going to work for the construction industry. It's like, yeah, no, not at all. Like, I'm a civil guy. Like, you have no idea what I do. Like, you have no
Exactly.
idea.
Yeah. It's actually interesting that I feel like we as scale ups or whatever you want to call us, or the startups that are a little bit longer in this game, we realized that, and we actually got together a few weeks ago and we're like, hey, why don't we put us together and create kind of like a conference or an event with like the next generation, right? Like where it's not just because we all go to the Autodesk and the broker conference and so on. And that's all great. And that's amazing for all of us that they let us join there. But it's also like, why, like, I'm not competitive with Hammer Tech. I'm not competitive with Document Crunch or whatever it is, right? Like, why don't we like all get together, and instead of every one of us does their own events and has their customers fly 50 weeks a year to somewhere, right? To wine and dine, like, let's just put it all together and show them like what the future of construction looks like.
San Diego is a great place to do that.
I think it's going to be Austin, but yes.
Okay, that's not too bad too. That's not too bad too.
Or Richmond. Richmond's a great little spot.
Austria.
When did Austria?
Yeah.
I'm down for Austria. What did you guys start? When did you start Trunk Tools, Sarah?
Yeah, late 21 after the market broke.
That's a good time. Do you want to go in at the bottom when everyone is being told to leave the projects? That's when you want to start a construction tech company.
Yeah, I was like, maybe my European friends were right. There was no money. There was like no venture capital. It was crazy.
You're almost 5 years into this. Like, maybe walk us through first, 2 years, because there's, like you said, startup, then scale up. There's a couple different phases to this. What has been maybe your learnings from the first phase, and how that's maybe challenging what this next phase is going to look like?
Yeah, I mean, we started with one product / agent, whatever you want to call it. Now it's an agent. It was a product before all of this AI craziness. Started building it, and it was slow, and it scaled a little bit, and it was fine. And then like I always had an AI team because of my background, right? And like all of a sudden LLMs became so much better, and we were like, hey, from my own PhD research, where a big chunk of the problem was the data was unstructured, hey, now we have LLMs, we can structure data. And so that was like a big insight, where it was right around when we raised the seed round, where it was like, okay, cool, like let's try to do something real with LLMs. And we ran lots of different experiments with superintendents. And that's when the magic happened, right? When one of the superintendents was just like, oh my God, this thing can answer questions, right? So that was the big thing back in the days. But I think what we were lucky at and good at, we were lucky that obviously AI became such a hype, but we were just good at brutally quickly executing. I was just like, I don't think we were afraid. We were like, oh, if this is going to fail, it's going to fail, right? But like, at least we're going to like give it a real shot. And so the first year and a half were a wash, I think, as there are for most companies, right? Like you're trying to hire some good people, you're trying to build the structure. And from there on, it has been a pretty crazy and very aggressive ride.
What have you learned about the industry in those 4 years that you maybe didn't expect?
Or how the industry was different from your European experience versus American.
Yeah.
2 questions. Great.
It was smaller here than I thought, right? Like it's obviously a larger market, but in the end, it's the same 200 people at every conference. So I think I was shocked. The market feels larger in Europe because the countries are more segregated than it does here, right? Here, this is very much like one market. As much as people don't want to hear this, but like DPR is DPR is DPR, right? And like, and so on. And so Suffolk is Suffolk is Suffolk.
I would agree. Yeah,
in Europe, that's not the case, right? In Europe, they speak different languages, they have different currencies and so on. And so like, it's way more segregated. And that makes this actually a smaller market with a bigger dollar sign behind it, which is, I think, why software companies are so much more successful in the US than anywhere else. So I think there's that. And then the other thing is like, I keep wanting to build for the field, and we keep getting pushed building for the back office. And that's just like where my heart is crying a little bit, because I'm a field person. And so many of the requests that we get from the customers are like, can you make the life easier for like the white collar workers? And I was like, no, I like the blue collar workers. But
when you think about like, you've got a PhD in a variety of data, one of the conversations happening in the industry is around data ownership. And I think like an angle on that is, I think because no one's really done the work to parse out what data we're actually talking about, data is a large category. right? There's a lot of metadata on projects. I think in one speech you mentioned just the quantity of paperwork on every project. It like creates a bridge to the moon or something like that. Um, and when you really dig into it, what actually is IP in this data set? I think if we did that work, we'd be surprised at how little maybe IP is in actually some of this data. But like, what's your perspective on that?
Yeah, I think it's a very topical and very relevant question, right? And parts of it is, I mean, the elephant in the room is here that we all know that some of the larger incumbents have decided to like, decide who they're going to give data access to and not, right? And like, as many of us, is like, we as Trunkles have been excluded by one of the large incumbents about like, hey, we can't be on their API anymore because we're training models and we're just like growing too fast. That brings up the question, like, who owns the data, right? Whose decision is it to actually like say where does the data go and not? And like,
Yeah.
if you think about it, it's very funny. We have lots of customers that got really upset, obviously, about what was happening. And the customer's like, this is my data. And I'm like, okay. I mean, yes, it's definitely more your data than the software provider's data. But is it even yours, or are you actually leasing your data from the client, right? Like the
Yeah.
GCs are leasing the data from the client. So it's not even really fully the GC's data. And so it's this interesting dichotomy. And then to your point, Stephen, what do we all care about? 99% of the data that we are getting has zero IP in it, right? Like an RFI is an RFI is an RFI.
Yeah.
Like a drawing, like the way you draw the door symbol doesn't matter to anybody, right? What matters is like in the data center, how the HVAC works, right? Or something like that, how the cooling system works, but not how you draw a wall or a detail or something
Those are
like that.
standard. It's all standard now anyway.
It should be standard.
Should be.
And then it's really when you boil it down, I think the little IP that I, just from a personal opinion, would see in construction is maybe around scheduling, like how do you schedule and sequence your construction site? Maybe around estimating, right? Like how do you create budgets and how do you get the
Yeah,
deal and still
totally.
not lose money?
Yeah.
And then for something like a data center, something like that, yeah, is there some IP within the drawings of like how you smartly build buildings? Yeah.
Well, and I think the irony of that is that the truest IP is still yet to be really captured. It's in the minds of the people executing your
100%.
work in the field that you haven't found a way to really capture, right?
Right. And honestly, in their personal relation, I always ask general contractors, it was like, what is your IP, right? And if they really start thinking about it, it's like, oh, it's in their network, right? It's like my superintendent knows when to call the concrete guy to make the truck come anyway, so the construction site keeps going, right? Like, so it's in the interpersonal connection between people. No AI can help with that. No, nobody can take that away. But it's also knowledge transfer that's not happening because 40% of our workforce goes out of the window in the next 5 years and retires, and they capture 80% of our corporate knowledge.
Yeah, that's a real problem. I did plan on going this direction, but I think it's appropriate. When we talk about like knowledge capture, we typically take the perspective of the enterprise needing to capture that IP, in the minds of their people, the means and methods. But with what's happening with this kind of AI shift transition is we have, I think, a small window to kind of level up the individuals on these projects as a counterbalance to maybe these corporations benefiting maybe most from this kind of AI transition. And so when you look at that and look at maybe the product suite that you're investing in, do you think about it as like individual versus enterprise, or I mean, you serve the enterprise, you serve the individual, but like B2B versus B2C, what's your perspective on that?
Yeah, I like that. I've never gotten that question. Good job, Stephen.
I told him to ask you that one,
We are
Sarah.
thinking we are thinking about it a lot from like the job to be done. So kind of like the Clayton
Yeah.
Christensen theory. And so if I look at a submittal, we have a submittal agent that at this point now does it all, right? It takes the specs, splits it up in the right submittal register. Then the submittals are coming in. The agent compares the submittals to the specs and to the RFIs and gives the suggestion back to the human saying like, this is compliant or not. And the final step here needs to still be done by the human. I do not want to take the decision making away from the humans, but I want to take away the 95% of the annoying bureaucratic work to get there. And so we are looking at the job to be done for submittals, by the way, really macro perspectively, is just like, is this the right product that the owner wants, right? That's the question. So how do we get there as quickly as possible? Like, what stuff can the agent do? And then why are we keeping the human in the loop? For them to actually like learn. So we are very careful around which tasks are we fully automating, because we know if we do this for the whole industry, like in 5 to 10 years, people don't know anymore how to do these steps, right? So like we could just have the agent decide if the submittal is done or not, but the way we decided to do is we show them why it's compliant or why it's not and what they should be looking at, and then they can make their own decision that is pre-scripted by us, right? But so I think it's really important for organizations to think about what can be automated and how do I create a workforce that will survive the next decade. And that workforce needs to be augmented by AI, and they need to start on that today, but they should not create a workforce that is 100% relying on AI, because then good luck with that. And I see this with my own team, who is obviously advanced in all of this, but like, I need to teach the people right out of college who have been using AI for years in college. You need to teach them, when do you think first and then
Yeah.
use AI, or when do you do AI first and then think? And that differentiation we have because we're old, they don't. And it's actually really interesting, because I think we're generating a whole workforce right now without reasoning skills, and it is on software providers like us to be smart about this and not let that happen.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, we have 15 plus years of like professional writing experience, right? Like even like critical thinking experience. And now being able to plug that into an AI engine has exponentially, helped me do a lot of different roles. But without that experience, you don't know when to apply, the right maybe muscle memory. I don't know, Lars, where are you at in your AI journey, Lars?
He's on TikTok.
Yeah, he's just busy on TikTok.
Well, it's my AI
You gotta
version
get
of
off of TikTok.
me on TikTok. See, that's it. I've got like 20 of me
Boom.
running around there. Are you
That
talking?
does exist now on OnlyFans, by the way. Like, there is AI generated OnlyFans.
I have
You
that
can
too.
cut this
Actually,
if
that's
that's
a
not
great
appropriate.
idea. I've been looking for an angle there. Now I'm in. This is good, Sarah.
Hey,
The
that's your
sad
fault,
thing,
Sarah. You went down that.
thing is, it took a doctor to tell me that one. So are you asking from the perspective of, contractor? Are you asking perspective of,
Yeah, I mean, I think like
software
you have
founder?
a couple different irons in the fire. Like I think from the development side, what is as you grow your development company, are you looking at ways to like integrate AI at an enterprise level or, I mean, it's early days, but like I don't know, what is your strategy so far?
Yeah, so appreciate it. Fascinating conversation here. 100%. What I'm able to do from a startup founder on a construction company is it's literally speed of light compared to what I experienced in 2009. And the grind is so much faster. Now, granted, I've been through it before, so I sort of know the right moves, right? The playbook. But what used to take me months, if not years, because I'm not a good writer. Naturally, actually, how many builders are good writers? Probably less than 5%, right? Guys that really know how to build. How many carpenters can go write a SOP on, job numbering convention, and cost code structure and blah, blah, blah. Like, what I'm able to pump out is
You're gonna get lit up in the comments by some carpenters, but keep going.
good. Maybe, hey, I hope they do. Please, I'm curious how many there are out there. Right, Sarah told have female founders
We're
out
about
there.
to find all of them.
We are, yeah, with our big listening base. No, but what's interesting is, I see it as it's a 10x. That's what it is. It's a force
Yeah.
multiplier that if you have a clear vision on where you want to go, where you need to go, how you build, how you evaluate, how you move faster, like this is it. This is secret sauce, 100%. And the thing that blew my mind here recently is, I'm getting frustrated with one of the tools out there because, 13. So one, the key of prompting is like you got to be good at prompting. So there's an art to that. But, 13 layers into, this complex problem, it starts like going down this weird path. And I'm like, what is it doing? Now I'm getting frustrated. But what's fascinating, I saw the other day, because this is a little bit of a tangent, is this like LLM council. Have you heard this concept? It's you're bringing them all together so that they evaluate each other, and then
Yeah.
it like co-evaluates on top. Like, well, this is all the best, and then we're gonna like upscale. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is insane. But when does it stop? When does it stop? This is getting insane. So
The brain chip.
yeah,
That's the
no, no,
Yeah.
no. So, but I see it as, and Sarah, I think what you said is like tip of the spear. Thank you for being conscious about creating human robots rather than critical thinkers,
yeah.
because
Yeah.
you're right. The computer can just move it all and do it all. I'm
Yeah.
100% in the court of no, get rid of the busy work for me, right? I still need to train my employees to critically think. But if I can have a model that retains information, retains the culture, the fabric of the company, and how we operate and the types of work that we do and types of projects, right, we pursue and train those decisions. Now we're not getting dumber. I think we're getting faster and smarter, right? Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
we're actually, yeah, there might be a little bit of a dip, but I actually think on the other side of that, it's a really bright future. So that's what I'm excited about. And this is sort of I want to go back to a comment you said earlier. It's like you talked about the nuance of the European market versus America and modular. And you know, then how different that is. Now, why are we so fragmented here? Why aren't we doing stuff like that? Isn't that faster? Isn't it like straighter? Like nothing drives me nuts than a wall that's like wavy. And it's like, well, do they have that in factories? Does my car come out wavy? My car comes from a factory. I don't know. But it to me, this whole journey is, and I love playing with AI, and I'm excited to see where it's going to go and how it can accelerate employees and accelerate companies. And I think never before has it been easier to start and grow a large company in the construction space ever, ever.
Yeah, I agree. But I think it's funny because like I have a lot of these, I talk to a lot of the C-suite or executives in construction and they're like, so what should we do? And a lot of them want to wait. What you just said, right? Like, where does it end? A lot of them want to wait to figure out which tool is going to win in the end. And like, that's not your problem. With AI, switching tools is so much easier than it has ever been before because the
Yeah.
user interface gets easier, right?
Yeah.
What's not going to be easy is your people will miss the wave of learning
Learning.
slowly how
Yeah, the
to
training
live and
side.
work with AI, right? The training side. And like that is so much more worth valuable than picking the right tool right now.
Mm.
I have a strong opinion about this. I think companies, I feel super blessed to be in this position. Sold my first construction company. And then like now it's like, I just get to start something from scratch with this whole new suite of technology with no
Mhm.
baggage and having gone through it first rather than like, oh yeah, we're a 70-year-old company and don't worry, I've got like
Right.
20 people, in the basement that we can't really like do anything with, right? They're just sort of like friends of the owner, so we'll just leave them there, but it's real. It's real. I think I could say that, but it's,
Mark for edit.
yeah, oops, what minute?
I'm just kidding.
No, but like what I think is like if the companies that I think are going to thrive here, the bigger companies, the companies that have been around for a while, like right now they need a wholly separate team right now saying what does this company look like for the future? Like right now, simultaneously build this
Yeah.
company for the future. And that's where I think a lot of CEOs, guys in leadership positions aren't thinking about that because they're thinking what they've known. So it's almost like build it for the future right now. Go.
Yeah.
Completely retool it.
Well,
Yeah, and it's
and I
funny because some of them are so far away of like they hear about it and they can talk about it. And then I sometimes like to just ask them in a one-on-one setting. I was like, how do you use AI?
mm,
And they just don't. And I'm like, how do you want to change your 5,000 people organization about like adopting AI if you don't use it? And they're like, it's not good enough for my job. I'm like, it's good enough for my job, which means it's good enough for your
yeah.
job too, because I have the same role. Like,
Okay, so this is fascinating, Sarah. So I would love to hear your opinion if you can share on this. How many companies do you sit down with that it's a how many CEOs get it? How many defer to a committee? How many completely remove themselves from making a decision around the offering, the advancement? Like what are the percentage like buckets? And
yeah.
any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard, right? Because obviously the people that do talk to me are probably the more early adopters, forward thinking ones, right? Like I'm
Mm-hmm.
not getting the mom and pop's shop
Yeah.
from, I don't know, I'm not going to fill in a state, right? But, um, from the ones that we do sell to and we do get to, all innovation departments are actively using AI and talking about AI, right? So that's one I can clearly and they understand it. Most of them understand at least how to use it and what it can do. From the C-suite, I would say less than 10% of the ones I'm talking to are actively using AI themselves. The ones that do, and you can almost see I can tell you from like talking to people in the organization,
Yeah.
probably after 10 minutes, if their C-suite is using AI or not.
Yeah.
Just because
They
it
get it.
filters down. This is not just a
See-
bottoms-up thing. This is a top-down change management process.
And that's where I think, we are finding out very quickly in the industry how certain companies are led, right? Is it strong leadership? Are they willing to get their hands dirty on this? Are they coming in on a Tuesday saying, you're not going to believe what I did last night with Lovable and N8N? You're like, huh? What?
Yeah.
Yeah, I watched a YouTube video. It taught me everything. Like I made my own agent.
Right.
Like from the top, that's a big culture shift than, a project coordinator hired out of college who's trying to use it on a job site when the company's like, yeah, and we'll figure it out later.
Exactly, yeah. And it doesn't even need to go that deep, right? I don't need anybody to use Lovable. Like nobody, like they're not building websites. But like, I remember I was invited to speak at Gilbane's Executive Leadership Summit or something like that. And I give the spiel of like, you can write children's stories for your grandchildren or, whatever, like something that is tangible for them.
Mm-hmm.
Literally, I don't know if it was CEO or CEO. One of them stood up and was like, oh, I used it to analyze my blood results yesterday.
Yeah.
And I'm like, there you go. It's an amazing use case, and it's just like, it's showing that they have thought outside the box. It's just like, hey, how does it help me in my personal life? Because once you do it there, you'll do it on your job.
So you ready for this? I'll tell you what I'm doing it for right now. Cost codes. No, I'm serious. Cost codes. You know how painful cost codes are in a company and disorganized, especially legacy ones? I am completely revamping, and I have had so much fun just using it. I mean, Stephen, we're talking like 8,000 line items, spreadsheets. It's painful. And I'm like, oh, this is fun, right? Share that vision, tweak it. I'm like, okay, now I'm geeking out.
Nobody's ever said cost codes are fun, but I love this.
Cost codes,
right? Yeah. Well, welcome to what I like. Scary.
I want to revisit what you said earlier, Sarah, which I really liked, which is essentially like what we can do with AI isn't necessarily what we should do with AI. And I'm obviously paraphrasing a little bit or a lot, but I think more of that conversation needs to be had because I think we all have maybe become a bit like passive watchers of AI as an industry, thinking like it's just going to happen. Whatever happens, happens. It's kind of all inevitable. And if we all get replaced in 5 years, that's going to, be less great. But I think what you're saying, and I appreciate your leadership here, is no, like let's be intentional about what we build with the future that we want in mind.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's a good example. Like it's coming from our customers, right? Like we have customers like pushing back. It's like, but like if your tool reviews the drawings, then my superintendents will not learn anymore how to read a drawing, right? And it's like, we need to find the right line in the middle, right? Like if you are a trucking company, you're not going to tell your people right now, don't use Google Maps to get from A to B, right? That's the same example. But the question is like, okay, can anybody under 20 years of age still use a map? 99% of them cannot, right? Is it still necessary to use a map? Probably not. Is it still necessary to make the decision, do you drive left or right if there's traffic or if there's like a human jumping on the street? Yes, that's on you. That's on the human who's driving the truck. Yeah. And so I want to boil these AI decisions down on that example. Is it a necessary skill for my future success and for humanity? If no, let's get rid of it, right? Like doing math, complicated math in your head, nobody can do anymore, right? But it's not necessary anymore. But there's certain things like, again, decisions in construction, like being able to manage your construction site successfully, there's still aspects that I want the people in the field to keep. And that's how we make decisions. But I would say you can probably get rid of 80% of the workflows, the white collar workflows in construction because they're just like bureaucratic and annoying.
It's busy work.
Busy work.
It's busy.
Yeah.
And I would say, and one thing, Sarah, that I say is good luck finding people in the future that want to do the busy work.
Exactly. I mean,
they're not going to be there.
100%.
So, those people.
But there's this like hazing. Is it called hazing? There's this mentality of like, oh, I had to go through, like you young person have to go through this.
So again, I go back to leadership, and I think the companies that that will be successful from a continuity and leadership standpoint will have the leaders that see that and share that vision rather than like, well, this is the way I did it, so you have to do it that way.
Yeah. And I think with this, I think this is a little bit of a prediction. I think the E&R map is going to get flipped over a little bit. Uh, Not to say there won't be big companies that do very well, but I think you're going to have these like regionals start to have an outsized influence and a bigger punch way above their pay grade, way above like their history, because they're gonna bake technology and AI into these workflows. Whereas it's a whole lot easier to do that, like what Lars is describing, than the change management associated with flipping a 5,500 strong organization around.
Yeah, I think there's an advantage for that, right? Like the less mid-management, the faster you can do a
Yeah,
top-down leadership change. But there's also a reality that an advantage that very large general contractors had was they had specialized teams for everything, right? And
sure.
they were able to hire McKinsey or something like that. If I want McKinsey today, I literally open ChatGPT and tell it, please be McKinsey for me. And it
Yeah,
does a phenomenal job, right? And so like there's a democratization. You guys
there you
get the
go.
word.
Nailed it.
So it's like knowledge and like some of the skills that are being democratized, like therapy and so on, right? Like you can really use AI in a lot of very good, and so that will help smaller companies.
There's at least one McKinsey rep that listens that's going to just be crying right now.
Hiring.
Contact Sarah, their career page. Go ahead, Lars.
So what's interesting with that scenario that you just described is this like, do people really think they're getting dumber by using AI? I don't. Every time I read something based on my question, like I'm getting smarter, right? But where I think this perception is well, when it does the work for you, right? Like again, I'm communicating, I'm asking and going deep with my needs, questions, look at this, save me time, right? Rather than crappy websites. And then I'll reorient the question. But again, that's where I think this like dichotomy of, well, wait, am I getting dumber or am I actually getting smarter by using it? Is that possible?
I mean, I think it's a skill set shift, right? And that's the same, like, and humans are scared of that. It's the same as we had in industrialization and so on. If you read history books, like, we are in the middle of history repeating itself, where like everybody was worried they're going to lose certain skill sets, and we will be losing skill sets. I just want to be
But
very
should
clear.
we
Like,
be
by
losing
using
those?
AI, probably, right? Like, who wants to write cost codes, right?
Right.
Like, who wants to write, like, I don't know, who wants to look at a submittal, who wants to do a daily log? Like, these are all tasks that people hate. And so, what I like to tell construction companies is like, if a task is repetitive and annoying, you should throw AI against it. Because if it's not repetitive, it's probably going to
Yeah.
be hard to make an AI really good at it. And if it's not annoying, people actually just want to do that, right? And so let them do that. But if it's repetitive and annoying, throw AI against it.
I do want to get into some questions about advice to the next generation, but I think maybe the one last thought is I trust construction tech founders more than I do general AI industry founders. And so I think like the
Thank
pushback
you.
against what we just talked about is if like the Sam Altmans of the world and, the Zucker, like, I don't know if they necessarily have humanity in mind when they're like, hey, like what we build is, to make your life. I don't know if I believe them. And so I do think there's like a larger conversation at play, which is how can we as an industry lead in how we think strategically from a human team humanity cap on about how we implement AI and use that as a stamp for other industries. Because obviously there's some changes happening. I'm just going to leave that there. I
I
didn't
hope
really have it.
healthcare does the same thing.
Yeah, it's another good one.
Yeah.
But
So
Sarah,
I don't know. I mean, obviously, like, I don't want to judge if we trust them or not, right? But like,
who do you
I
trust the
have lots
least?
of
I'm
friends who
just kidding.
are I have lots of friends who work in AI safety and AI security, and just like knowing how much money is flowing into that is
Yeah.
something that helps me sleep well. Is it where it's supposed to be? No, right? Like, I think what's happening and what has happened is like the AI developments are faster than the security and the stuff in it, right? But it will balance itself out, I think. But I'm also an optimist.
Well, I also get worried when I hear like most of the folks in, starting these like AI safety organizations or companies are like former directors of AI safety for these large AI companies, and they left because, sometimes they weren't listened to. Like, I don't know, there's Roman, I forget his last name. but he was on the Diary of a CEO podcast, and like, very terrifying, his perspective on things. But anyway, I do want to end by talking about your advice to the next generation. I think you've done something really cool in the industry. You've come from Europe. You've like, I would say, inherited the culture of kind of American construction, and you've built a company that is doing some cool things. What would you say, one, to your maybe former self coming to New York? Like, what's one thing you learned that you would want to pass that on to your former self? And then maybe the second thing is, like, if you're a young person in the industry, what would your message be to them? Two questions.
So many answers to the first one. I think I would, like, what would I tell my former self? I mean, I put an insane pressure on myself to succeed in every aspect of my life. I think because I came not from much, and I always wanted to get out of poverty, and I never defined it, and so my goalpost moves every single day of the year. And so I think there would be a healthier approach to success than the one that I've taken. I think that's a very no BS answer here. I think I'm becoming more mature now, but that's also something I mirrored in the organization, right? So like, I think if I first think about the first year or two in the organization, like, it was hard to be part of Drunk Tool, right? Like, now we're becoming a little bit more softer. What do I tell people in the industry? Two things, actually. One for Lars. That's a Lars specific recommendation. You said prompting is hard. The easiest way to make prompting easier is ask AI to help you prompt. And that's the best, I think, recommendation I can give you is really, like, when you're like, oh, help me with these cost codes, ask first, like, can you give me a better prompt? I'm trying to optimize cost codes for my construction company.
So for the record, I have figured that out.
Hey.
Other people have it, right? A lot of people, because anyway, great advice. Thank you. Yes.
Sorry, I didn't want to target you too much.
No. I felt targeted completely. I mean, I have red hair. It's pretty normal.
He needs
it's like
a lot of
stepchild.
advice.
It's cool.
Right.
It's cool.
More advice you have for Lars, the better.
I'm used to it. Go ahead.
And then for younger people, I think AI is a beautiful tool right now for you to really accelerate your knowledge and where you're at in your career, especially if you're a career start or younger, because all of a sudden you can have the knowledge of the whole construction side in case of users of Drunk Tools, but also like just like the knowledge of the world on your fingertips in microseconds in a way aggregate. We had that with Google too, right? But like, Google search is a little more complex than what we have today. So can you become the ultimate best version of yourself in your job right now? Yes. Like, sit down every time when you drive home and you're in a metro or wherever, like, play for 30 minutes a day with AI and let it teach you how to become a better superintendent or a better PM or a better something. Like use AI as a teacher and you will show up within a week. You can learn anything, like just 30 minutes really a day.
That's my opinion on it's going to make us smarter, right?
Yeah.
Doctor's orders, the right way. 30 minutes of AI training a day.
Doctor's orders.
Doctor's
no training, just use it, whatever, right? Like, just start using it and be like, hey, I want to become a better superintendent. Great. Like, teach me how. Or I want to become a better partner to my romantic partner, to my wife, like, whatever. Like, it's like, I'm at a point where I use it for almost everything, and it's really, really good at 90% of things.
Here's a bonus question. ChatGPT or Claude?
Claude.
Wow. You know what? I'm
probably shouldn't be saying this out.
Yeah. All right. It's good to know. Lars.
It has switched recently. It might switch back.
To what? We'll stop recording. Good talk.
No, this is all on the record.
No, don't put her
in that position. She already said she's Claude. She's a Clauder.
Right now I'm Claude, but it might change.
Yeah, see? I was going to give that a shot too. Me too.
Lars is Gemini.
No.
Are you Gemini?
No.
I just
That's
went on a limb.
good too. It depends on for what. It really depends.
Yeah. I need a subscription to
I'm
all of
the
them.
biggest fan of VO3 right now. Like, that stuff is just amazing. Like, it can generate the videos and stuff like that. I created a wedding teaser. It looks like a $200,000 Hollywood production.
Seriously?
I'm going to be making $43 million a year. My OnlyFans is an AI Lars. It's going to be great.
This is a family show. We
blame the doctor. She took it in a really weird direction.
Well, Sarah, this has been a fun conversation, informative conversation, and sometimes not suitable for work conversation as it relates to OnlyFans, but we'll edit that out. But thank you for joining us. Any final thoughts, Sarah?
No, I mean, I think thanks, guys, for having me on. Thanks for creating a space where we can just talk the no BS talk. And like, thanks caring about construction. That's
Yeah.
cool.
Absolutely.
Keep up the good work.